One quick thing, George, can you please send me the recordings of the first?
This recording, right?
The last two recordings.
I thought I already sent you guys.
Also,
Oh, I can send it again, but
wait, is this time the last one? Is this time the last one?
I don't think so. I think this is the second last one.
Okay.
So our last lesson, so lesson 7 will be next week, I believe. You never received one. Okay. Let me do it after today's lesson. Like, let me try it again. If you don't get it, just send me an email, right? And I'll probably just send it to you directly. All right. So we already talked about some objects last time, right? And you guys, I believe, practice at home by yourself-ish, kind of. Is there any problems or questions that cross your mind you want to ask?
Can you send us the thing?
Stace? Yes. Before last time, is there anything you guys want to ask?
Well, I'm trying to think. Also, I'm trying to go back to the 5th doc. Right, one. There we go. The doc.
Nope, we're all good.
Wait 1 second.
For the classes?
I'm looking at the doc.
All right.
I'm trying to find some stuff. Presentation. Yeah, no, not much.
No.
I don't have any questions.
How about others? Any questions? Concerns? Nope. All right, we're gonna move on. So classes is kind of the last thing that is in the section of common use. Well, for beginners, I believe. And today we're gonna talk about something that is a little bit more advanced, right? It's only a bit advanced than what we did before. First of all, we gonna discuss IOs. So just by these 2 letters, what can you think of it? IO. What is IO? Imagine that I don't have all this description and you're not in
IO?
What is IO? Yes.
Indian Ocean?
No, not Indian Ocean.
No, but that's like, I actually searched it up before. It literally said Indian Ocean or something.
Oh, okay. That's different then. Anybody else? Any guesses?
I mean, is it related to games or something?
No, it's simply one character stand for one word, and these are 2 words combined together. Yes, they stand for input-output.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
In the world of computers, we are not only running stuff that we write, right? We also try to interact with some inputs and we have an output, but we do not only just print it out or just calculate and get the output. We want to use the output somewhere. And this somewhere requires us to send this data there, right? It's a long process. You have to send this data all the way to your destination, or you have to retrieve your information or your input from somewhere. And the easiest one is just a user input. You type on the keyboard, and we already talked about that using you can use the method just input with a bracket, and you can just print them out in your consoles with print function. And these two are all built-in. They are easy to use, and mainly we use them for debug purposes. But in a bigger schema, we require things to not only work in the terminals, in the command lines, not just a black window or a dark purple window like this. No, we want them to work somewhere else, somewhere that is a UI, a user interface that looks nice, like this website. And I can tell you that 100% that all the things Google can do, it's not on your browser. They have a server, and the server do some calculations, and they try to send the outcome, the result, to your device, and your device is sending your input over the internet to their server for some calculations. And that is I/O that we talk about. It's not simply just a user input that I did before, like this, like type like this. No, it's about the communication between devices, and most of the time that they are not on the same computer. So it is possible that I can have a background calculating stuff, and I have another graphical user interface, a GUI, that is upfront. And
So is I/O just basically printing the input
no,
and then calculating it or something?
that is the basic way of doing that. That is the simplest way of doing that. Just any words you see up here, those are considered as a output from the server, from the Google server. All right, and whatever I type in here right now, those are considered as input. So I'm trying to tell you that input and output, those are not only just when I run a program and it asks for some user input. No, those are things that are between devices. And in order to transform those data, those information, you can't simply say, okay, I have a variable here and you are supposed to be able to access my variable, like how we did with different classes and modules. No, those require that you are running the same program from the same computer. But in real life, that is not used much in terms of I/O. So that comes into the question, how are we going to communicate that then? Well, in the early days, people use files. Simply the title of the file is the message you're trying to send, and people send that over the internet. And now we no longer use that, but we still use the internet communication, the TCP/IP communication. But that, I'm not going into details about that in today's lesson. You can email me if you want to go deeper into that. But we're mainly gonna focus on using files. So imagine you have some data that you get through the internet, okay? We don't worry about how you got them through the internet. You just get some data. They're in a file through the internet, and it's stored on your computer, and you're trying to access that file's information. You cannot just open it by yourself and copy paste and run them in your program. No. You want the computer to be able to do it by itself, because the file will be updating all the time, and you don't want to stay up, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, That's not healthy, right? And how can the computers do that? It involves something called file I/O, which is the main focus of the I/O section that we are gonna worry about today. 1 second, let me admit them into today's class. All right, so now when we want to get input from users, like I said before, you use the function input, and you want to print them out, you use the function print. Same idea here. You have some special functions that can do the job for you, and that is called open. You use open with a bracket, and that takes in 2 parameters. The first one is your file name. So the name of your file. Always remember to add the .txt or something else in the end. All right, it requires the full name, not only just example. No. I know that some people have asked me before, when we import a module, we just import the name of the module without the .py in the end. But why do we need to do that for files? Well, I don't know. It's just the people who design the computers, they require you to do so. So we just follow the rules. And for the second half of the parameters that takes in is the type of the action that you want to do. And there are 7 of them, and I've listed on the slide. You can do a quick scan, and I'm going to go over each one briefly. So the 2 main things that we do is read and write, right? And those are just the initial letter of the word. So R stands for read and W stands for write. And remember that if you don't have anything for the second parameter, so you just have your file name, then it's by default read. So you can't write anything into it. And you use X for to check basically if the file is there. If the file is not there, you will not open anything. So you will not even create a new one. You only open this file if it already exists previously. And A is also for writing, but the difference between A and W is W cuts out whatever you have in the file.
Yeah.
Just delete the old file and create a new file.
Is X basically what File Explorer uses? Because you can't put two files in it that have the same name.
Well, it must have some things to check if it already exists in your directory, but not quite, I think.
Okay.
Well, maybe. Yeah. I think they might use X. I'm not too sure. And A is also for writing, similar to W, but the difference is that it appends to the end of your pre-existing file. So whatever you have on the file, they will remain there. And by default, it's opened as a text file. But we can read or write in binary as well, if you decide to put a B there. And then we have just a plus sign indicating for update. So you have read and write. So many people, including myself, I prefer to use just plus B most of the time. No, like, yeah, just plus B most of the time, because it's only 2 letters. And after you have opened the file, like these parameters I'm talking about here, those are used to tell the computer that what type of action you're gonna do with this file, but they do not perform the action. In order to actually write contents into the file or read from it, you use your variable, you use the file that you just opened, and use the function write. And when you try to read, it's kind of like the input function that you do in Python. It's the entire line from the file. So it has the \n at the end, indicates, okay, here is the line separation, whatever behind is a new line. So you might have to be careful about that. If you want to grab like, let's say you have a file, you have only one line, and you have 2 numbers, 1 and 2, separated by a space. You can't just say, okay, I want to read the first number or the first character in this file. You have to read the entire line and process the line afterwards. Process the string afterwards. And yeah, always remember to close the file when you are done with it. This way it removes the cache and release some of the memories, just so that your computer doesn't freeze due to memory overuse.
Okay.
And here's just an example of how you can quickly write some lines into the file and read from them.
Okay.
And like I said, it's ended with a new line already. And we all know that our print statements already do a new line cut. So if I do something like this, it will end up having an extra blank line in the end. Let me show you actually. Why did it freeze out? All right. So I'm going to create a new file called just example.txt, and I'm gonna write something into it, all right? So first, I create a file, and I open that, right? I wanna call it example.txt, and I give it a second parameter indicating that I'm writing into it, okay? I need to load. And then I'm going to just write first line. Then remember to close after your actions. Then I'm gonna.
Please merge the fonts.
Oh, okay. Always forget to do that. I remember 20 worked for you guys, right? Is it better now?
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. And now I try to read the contents from it, right? Just you only need R because by default it's already a text file. And I try to read the entire line. See what it looks like. Well, we have first line. And we can see what do we have here. We just create a new text file. Well, in case that you don't believe I just created it, you might think, oh, I tricked you. Well, let's remove this, right? And let's check again. We don't have anything, right? Oh, my bad. Okay, now we don't have anything here. And what we can do is just simply run our program and it will create a new file. And what's inside that file is just first line. Oh, that's quite fascinating, isn't it? Oh, ooh. Do you notice what I forgot to do here? There's one little error that I forgot to do here. It's not a big problem now, but
Always close.
yes. I forgot to close the file. So always remember to close it when you're finished. Always, always, always. It's a good habit. Just sometimes you might forget. It's not a big deal, but try to remember to do it. So moving on from file IO, I want to talk about something about exceptions. As I have told you guys before that we want to make sure there are no errors in our code when we write them. And that is 100% true. However, there might be some, okay, so there are two types of errors. One is called syntax error, one is called runtime error. And syntax error are the ones that occurs when you don't write your syntax correctly. For example, if I don't have this bracket, that's gonna cause me a syntax error.
Okay.
And it did not. I wonder why. Let's say I have a half of a bracket, and that caused me a syntax error. We don't want those type of error to pop up during when we run the program. However, there are some things that may pop up during the runtime. So after we run the program, it runs smoothly, right? Everything is fine until a point where it crashed
Everything is fine.
due to something went wrong, basically. And normally, this will shut down our entire program, right? Everything crashes. there are two ways to solve this from happening, to prevent it from happening. One is use multi-threading, so only your current thread crashes, but your other threads remains, as long as it's not the main thread. But that is not what we want to do. That is way too complicated to do for a simple task like this. We just need to use a special function called try and except. Or in other languages like Java, C++, you may see try and catch. They mean the same thing. So you try some of the code, all right? You just give them a try. In case that they went wrong, you have this except or catch statement that you captured the errors, all right? It's like you're giving a new food, right? You give it a try. And in the meantime, like while you were eating, you don't like it, you just stop it right there. But it won't cost you to go all the way into hospital. It's the same thing here.
Okay.
You just try some of the code. You see, okay, how am I doing? And then there might be an exception pop up saying, okay, this went wrong. Then you're fine because you already catch it. It won't cause any more harm. Like you already stopped eating. You're not going to hospital just for one bite. It's basically the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, let me show the example afterwards. However, 100% of the time that you will want to capture the exceptions. Well, yes, that 100% of the time you want to capture the exception, but not 100% of the time that you don't want that exception to happen. For example, I can have a string and I want the code to terminate when the string is either too short or too long. Well, I can create my own exception. So, and I just gonna do an if statement. I'm gonna check, okay, is my string too long or too short? If yes, I'm just gonna raise the exception. So basically I create my own trouble and I gonna raise them in the program. And this will cause the program to shut down. However, if you combine this with the try and except, then you will be able to shut down your program, but not so shut down that everything crashes. You just shut down the part that you are currently running, and everything else continues. This may sound a little bit confusing, and I completely understand. That's why we're gonna do a quick example here. So, let's create a new class called just string regulation, string length exception. And who can tell me what this exception does? Like, why do I have something in the bracket? What does it do? We talked about this last class. What am I trying to do here? Well, I hear the keyboards clicking.
I'm just making a new file.
Oh, right. Yes, they are called superclass. What is a superclass? Someone? What is a superclass? So how are they super? Why are they so advanced that we call them super? So what differentiates it from regular classes? Inheritance, exception. Yes, that's perfect explanation. So all I'm trying to do here is I create a new class called string length exception. Yeah, and but I don't want to write all the code for the exception, and Python probably won't accept it because I write them by myself. And what I need to do is I take the code in from the Python library as exception. So I import, or you can consider as a virtual import, like I said last time. I virtually import all the requirements you must have for an exception into my own class. So later on, like what Jonathan says, that I can raise this exception. So it meets all the standards Python requires for an exception. And here I just gonna not do anything for now, right? I'm just gonna pass. So what pass does is it lets you create a class or a function that is empty, that is blank. And now I'll take a user input, right? I'll just randomly say, just enter a string. And here I will check to see if my string is either too short or too long. Oh, no, sorry. So if my length is greater than 3, or my length is smaller than, is smaller. Well, it can be smaller, just equal to, actually, let me do smaller than 3. And they're greater than 10. So anything between 3 and 10 is acceptable. I'm going to raise this exception. Remember how I said that this is a class, right? Whenever you want to use a class, you want to be like, okay, so here's my instance of class they always has to be equal to something, right? Equal to my class. No, that is how you normally do it with a class that you're going to use it regularly. Right? You want to access its data, its functions, or its fields. But if you just want to raise an exception like this, you don't have to do the sign. You just have to, all you need to do is just create a new one. Don't have to give it any name or anything else. And else, I'll just say print you passed. All right, and let's run our code. So it asked me to enter a string. I can enter something very, very long. And bam, there is an error. Okay. What happened? There's a string length exception. Well, what is a string length exception? Let's say you wrote this code and your colleagues came in and they run the code and they have this exception coming up. They don't understand what a string length exception is. So what you can do is you can let this exception do something, right? You can write its own init function. Again, what does init function do? Right, what is an init function? We also talked about this last time. I'm waiting for an answer. Can anyone beside Jonathan answer this? So Jonathan, don't type anything in the chat, right? I want to give others a chance to think about it. All right. Seems like we kind of forgot about our last class. What classes are and what does classes do. So I might need to go back if we have time today. So, all right, yes, initialization. Okay, so Darren just saved you guys from going back to the painful classes learning, but there might be other topics that come up later on, involve some of the past contents. And you guys should know them, so try to answer them. The init function is the function that gets caught up automatically during the initialization process of your class. So when I create this class here, this exception here, I called up a function, right? And that's this one. And what I want to do is I want to tell the user that why I terminate the program. Well, string is, I'm just gonna say input string has to be between 3 and 10 letters. There we go. And let's see the effect this time. So I just have a 1. Okay. There's my program. I enter a string and bam, input string has to be between 3 and 10 letters. It tells me why. So in the future, when you want to write your own exceptions, this is what you can do. And you can even pass in some of the parameters, like you can pass in a string and just a string maybe. So what you can do with that is like this. When you raise this exception, you pass in the string that causes the problem, right? You pass in this s. And what it does is it tells you that, okay, here is your string and your length has to be between 3 and 10 letters. You can do all sorts of stuff with exceptions, but always remember, try to put your code in your initialization function, since that's the only one that's going to be used. Well, in this case. Well, some of you may ask, how about in other cases? In times that when it may come handy is when you use the try except statements. So what you can do is you try some code, like again, check the length. Until here, they're all the same as what I did last time or before, but I can catch the exception, right? I can catch my string length exception as E. So E is just, I give this exception a name. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a couple more functions in here. Oh, another quick question. Why do I constantly have self when I write the functions for the class, but I don't pass any parameters for it? Anybody? Just type in the chat. Someone other than Jonathan or Darren. Somebody else. Not completely correct. It does refer to something itself, but not the command. It refers to the class no, sorry. It refers to the object itself. So an object is the instance, right? The copy of a class, and it refers to that copy. Yeah. So I can have another function called reason. And in here, I'll just state, is it too short or is it too long? So I first just gonna, okay, get the length. What's my length? And if my length is smaller than 3, I'm just gonna say, okay, string too short only, and here I'm gonna add my length only characters, and else it's going to be string too long. Oh, forgot my So I treated this custom exception as a regular class. I assign a object variable for the class called s, which is my string that I passed in. And then I added a function called reason that tells me why I cut off the program. Why is it not continuing? So string length exception is catched. But why do I have this? Since I already assigned my exception to E, I can just use E dot reason. This will tell me why I was terminated. Well, input string 1 length has to be I'm just gonna get rid of this now. Doesn't make any sense. Let's try it again. So input string length has to be between 3 and 10 letters. Because my exception is catched, okay? It's too short, only 1 character. So from all the printouts, you can maybe figure out the order that is processed, but I'm going to go over it here. So after I input this, I enter my try and accept. I first check, is it in the boundary? Okay, it's not in the boundary. So I raise this exception. And while I was creating it, it printed out this line because it's in the init function. And that's what you see here. And then after I already catch this exception, I print out, okay, I catched it. That's what you see here, second printout. The last one is due to my reason. Okay, it's too short, only 1 character. And if it's too long, same thing will happen. The only difference is this reason will be too long. And if it's in the boundary, so it's passed. And this is something you can do with your own custom exceptions. This for sure will be very handy when you come in to design your own big projects. Because you're gonna just custom everything, right? And the pre-existing Python errors, they will for sure not be good enough or not enough for you. Any questions? Why is it called anonymous camel, anonymous squirrel? All animals.
It's because probably because we don't know each other from Gmail.
Yeah, it might be.
Mm.
But yeah, any questions about how to catch an exception properly? Or how to raise an custom exception? No? Everybody's good? Okay. Oh, yeah, nah, not gonna go into that. So, outside of exceptions, we have some more data types that we're gonna go through. And there are list, tuples, set, and dictionary. We already talked about list before, and we're pretty familiar with it, right? We know it's a mutable collection of items. We can get its length. We can get a certain item by its index, or we can append. In the end, we can insert at any index, or we can pop an item from it, right? And tuple, they are very much the same, except that they're not mutable. They're immutable collection of items, meaning that once you have created it, you cannot change it. But you can still access the item by its index, and that's perfectly fine. You just cannot add or append or insert or pop or remove. No, it's set to stone. So be careful when you initialize a tuple, because you can't change it anymore. Let's see. So let's just go over a list. I create a blanky list here, and I can append, so it appends to the very end always. Just a number, 1, or I can insert. first have the index. I can insert index 0 because it's always started with 0, not 1. And I can insert 2. So this will be 1, 2, no, 2, 1 now. And we can check how it looks like. And we can pop. So by default, this pop the first item, but we can give it an index. So we'll pop item 1. So the second item in the list. And I'll print the current list. Not this one. Oh, and we can also get its length using len, just like what we do with the strings. They have 2 length of 1. So that is for the list. And tuples. What is a tuple? Notice how when I create a list, it's with the square brackets. When you create a tuple, you use round brackets. So that is how I do. But there's no way for me to insert or to append or to pop. No, those does not exist. So you have to be sure that what you want to put in right at the top when you create this. For example, I can go, first one will be my name, second one will be my age. And I can print it out. I can get its length. I can even loop through it, right? I print it out. It has a length of 2, meaning it has 2 items in the tuple. And loop through, I print out the value of each. That's for tuples. So the only difference from this and list is this is immutable. So everything you put in when you initialize it is the final version of it. But all other items, all other functions that you can use with the list, like length, just get from index or loop through, those are all the same. And what you can do about the third one on our list is set. Well, set is a bit different. Oh, okay. Yeah, one thing I forgot to say. When you deal with tuples, if you only have one item you cannot just leave it like this, all right? This will not consider it as a tuple. This will just consider it as a string. And when you loop through the string, you just get each character. If you want this to be a single item tuple, you have to add a comma. I don't know what is that? Yeah, a comma. You have to add a comma after your item. And now it'll be a tuple. And when you loop through it, it's looking like what you want it to look like, right? And you can also create a tuple from a list. So for now, I have my list, and I will show you guys the type. And when you create a tuple, there's tuple with this will make your tuple into a list. No, sorry, make a list into a tuple. See, it was first top list, then it became a tuple. And whenever you want to change anything about your tuple, you have to convert it back into a list and do some adjustment. Like you remove some items, you add some items, then you can go back, transform it back into a tuple. So it's the same. When you transform a list into a tuple, you use the keyword tuple. Okay, there's a built-in function, it creates a tuple from a list. And inside the bracket, you put the name of of your list variable. Same thing for list. You have your list, and in the bracket, you put the name of your tuple variable. Can we put now into list? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. Like that, you mean? Maybe no. Yeah. No, you can't. Yeah, but anyways, when you try to transform it back into a list, then you can do all kinds of actions you want to do with a regular list, right? Let's say I'm to replace my last item. So this is a length of 5. So number 4, instead of a 5, I want it to be just string 5, right? Then I want to make this back into a tuple. So I assign it back as a tuple. And I print out my new tuple. And let's see how it goes. It was first like this. It's a tuple, then it became like this as a tuple. Because I make it into a list, then I do some adjustment, like a regular list. Then you can make it back into a tuple. wait, actually, I think this is how you write now in Python, right? Use none instead of now. So yeah, you can put them in list and tuple. For set and dictionary, I'm pretty sure you can put them in set. Dictionary as key, definitely no. As value, yes. So what is a set? Well, set, they are mutable, but they will not store repeatable or repeated data. So it makes a new whenever you add a new item into a set, it creates a new copy or like a new item in its collection. But when you add the same thing in again, it doesn't do anything. We typically use it to, for example, in attendance, we have a mixed attendance in many days, right? Every single day, there might be different number of students coming into class. And how do I know that what is the amount of individuals that have ever been in the class before? I put the attendance each day into my set. So whatever is duplicated. So let's say Sam came in twice. His name will only be there once. And this way I know how many people have showed up like overall. And when we create set, we typically do this. And you see how with a list we can use square brackets, and with tuples we use the round brackets. With set, you can either do it like this or with the curly brackets. However, the curly brackets, they also mean dictionaries. So if you just do something like this, it'll consider as a dictionary. And we can try it. See, it turns out to be a dic. Another way of doing that is, I remember if you just put a comma, no, you have to put a value in the comma. So, way to do it is you adding a first value, then you remove you remove it. And it'll still be a set. Even though it's empty by now. See, even though it's empty, it's still a set. But this is too redundant. Okay, it's too not clean, so we just use the keyword set. Much easier. Create a empty set, and we can put a list into it, or we can put a tuple into it. Either way. Let's first put a list into it. This won't do anything. How about like that? It only have the non-repeated elements in the set. And when you want to remove something from it, instead of using the index, you use the element itself. So you use the value itself. Let's say I want to remove none from my set. I just simply write in none. Oh, the reason is because sets, they do not index their collections. It's technically not even a collection because it's not ordered. It's just a bunch of data that's in there. I remove things just like that. You use the value that you want to remove directly. And the last one is called dictionary. I mentioned dictionary while we were doing the double star custom length parameters. I said everything you pass in the key values, it will become a huge dictionary with whatever name you give it. And I just showed you guys quickly how to access them, but didn't go into too much details. Well, hopefully today we can make up for that. So, I have a dictionary. Like I said a couple of minutes ago, if you just have a empty curly brackets, that's how you say it, right? Curly bracket, yes. If you just have an empty curly brackets, it's considered as a dictionary, not a set. Even though when you print it out, a set is also using curly brackets. And inside dictionaries, if you want to put some values in directly, wait, let me answer this question. How to copy set data into a list? What will be ordered? Will be the order. Right, let's come back to this. I haven't done that before, but we can try if this works. Okay, it works. Yeah. You just change, do the same thing with the parsing. Use list in the bracket, you put in your set or the name of your set, and it'll become a list. By what order? I'm not too sure. But in this case, since we transformed this list into a set and back into a list, so the order will remain the same. However, I remember that if we do something like this, it not necessarily add your new elements in order. So the order might shift. Oh, it did not. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. All right. So it seems that the set data, they keep the order as chronological order, I guess. So whichever is added first will be in the beginning, whichever added last will be in the end. It's kind of like append. It's a bunch of append going on. The only difference is that when you try to remove something, you use the value directly instead of using index. But the order of the set will be the same when you move them back into a list. Does that answer your question, Jonathan? All right, great. No problem. All right, so let's come back to dictionaries. When I create an empty dictionary, I can give it some values, right? I can say, okay, name equals to George. And remember, dictionaries, there are always key value pairs. And what key value pairs mean is, instead of using index to know that which is your item, values don't have an index. Instead, they have a key. Okay, it's kind of like how our name system works. My name is George, but does anything on my DNA says my name is George? No, my parents named me. So every now when people say George, I know they're calling me. They do not say, okay, number 1, number 2, number 3. No, we call each other by their names. Same thing with dictionaries. You don't name your values by number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like a list or a set. Or a tuple. Instead, you call them up by their special name you give them. Here I say, okay, name is George. So I'll print out the entire dictionary. And when I want to access a specific item in it, I use, same way as the list, I use the name with a square bracket. But inside, instead of an index, I put my key. Okay, the keys are always a string. The values can be anything. So here I have a George. The value can also be a list. It's the same thing as a list. You can have anything in your collection. You can have objects as one of the index. You have a string, you can have none, you can have even a set or another list as one of your collection. And same thing for the dictionary. Like here, I'll have list and this is my set here. Oh, I don't need this one. And you see how I added all of my values into this dictionary. So now the dictionary is whatever is inside this curly bracket. And inside the curly bracket, these are all my key value pairs separated by commas. First one, I have name as my first key, and the value to that is George. And later on, when I want to access this key value pair, I use my dictionary with a square bracket with my key in it. That gives me my values. And then I can store anything, like I said. I can store a list, I can store a tuple, or I can store a set. Store anything. It's super powerful. Dictionaries, they're amazing. No, you cannot use list as a key. You always have to use string as the key. For values, you can use whatever you want, but for keys, they're always string. No, numbers cannot be key. Here, I can show you. Like Jonathan asked, can I have other stuff as key? Well, no. I do not believe so. But I was wrong. But I was wrong. No, numbers work, I guess. Okay. And you said, can you use list? All right, no, okay. Okay, unhashable type. All right. So it turns out all of your keys, they have to be hashable is, okay. So it's kind of like the hash map thing in Java. It has to be hashable, meaning it's either has to be the primitive data types. So strings, integers, doubles, and booleans, I think. Those are a couple of things you can use for key. But for booleans, you have true and false, right? Those are only two options. Not really great, but strings, there can be any string. Numbers can be any number. So those two are the things you can consider as your key. So yeah, that's it for dictionaries. Oh, okay. One more thing. Instead of printing out the entire dictionary, you can actually loop through them, make them look prettier. You can loop through for each item in the dictionary. This by default, like this, it gives you all the keys. So whenever you want to access them, you do like this. Just a dictionary with your key. Or you can do keys. This gives you all the keys of your dictionary. It returns into a list. Or you can do dot values. This gives you all the values of the dictionaries and returns in a list. So these are the keys, and these are all the values that you have. So that's it for the dictionaries. And now we've finished all of the built-in data types. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly remind everyone what all those data types are. We have string, we have numbers, well, yes, integer, and doubles. And we have the booleans. We have the list, tuple, set, and dictionary. These are all type of built-in data types that we can use. And however, that's not it. As for exceptions, we can custom some of our own exceptions, right? Like the string length exception, like what we did here. Same principle applies. We can make our own data types. And how should we do that? Any ideas? Let me cover up this. So how can we custom some data types? It's quite similar to how we custom the exceptions. We use classes. Can we do the same thing for data types? I think so, right? Yeah. So it turns out we've been dealing with custom data types for a while now, for 7 days, for an entire week now. A custom data type is just a class that it includes some of the fields or its data's variables, mainly object variable, since they are data types. You don't want them to be class variables because that will change all the time, right? Well, not all the time, but it will. If you change the value of one class variable in one object, it'll affect all the objects, all other objects. So we don't want that. Mainly we use this kind of self dot. It's object variables. We mainly use object variables for our own data types. And we can even have some functions that kind of controls our own data types. Like the last time there was a robot example. Oh yeah, this one. This can be considered as a own class or kind of like a own data type, except it's called a robot. I store the names, the hobbies, the score, and I can turn my data type into a string, or I can even do some counts, see how many this kind of data I have, or just do a basic function. So yeah, I think that's it for today's class. And since this is the second to last class, next class we want to be talking about anything new. So this is the end of our entire session or class. But it's not over yet. Nothing new doesn't mean we are not practicing. Practice makes perfect. And that's why we have a surprise, a final project. Let me introduce this to you guys. Our goal is to write a program, okay? Because till now, all we've been doing is try to figure out how each pieces works in coding, but we've never put them all together into a big function, into a big product that can function properly. And the requirement is simple. Write a program that can print out the entire calendar of any year of user's choice in the form of, you have your year at the very top, then you have your month, you have all the weekdays, and corresponded with whatever each exact date corresponded to the day. And they go on January, February, all the way to December. It's excellent if you can make them look nice like this, like all centered kind of. But if you can't make them look this like this, it's fine if they're not, great for the style, but they have to have the key components. like this date has to be corresponded with your date. And a little bonus is to not only print the calendar out, but you're gonna store this calendar into a file. So you write them into a file using what? File IO. And you give it a name by the year. So for example, if I'm asking to write a calendar for the year of 2020, then your file that stores the calendar shall be 2020.txt. What do you mean final? Oh, this final project, what does final mean? Okay, since this is the second last class of our course, next one will be the last. So that's kind of where the final comes from. So this custom data type is the last thing that I'm gonna teach you guys. And from now on is self-exploring. I have showed you guys how each component works, right? In coding, the basic components. And now you're gonna try to figure out how do you collaborate them together? How do you put all these Lego pieces together and build a big Lego robot? And this is your project you're gonna think about. And hopefully you gotta finish by the end of or next Monday. And you can just send your code to my email. You'll have my email address. And I'll take a look. What would the project look like? I have a copy of it. I made one myself, but that's in Java and that's not on this computer.
Do we have to do a project?
Yeah, if you can.
Not sure if I can.
Wouldn't say.
Just a few weeks ago, I was trying to make a bot.
Try to make a what?
A bot for a game.
That is too complicated.
Well, I was reading the articles online.
Yeah, no.
There were some notes in the code that told me what those things did.
Yeah, making a bot for the game is much
Harder.
more complicated, much harder than making a calendar app.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to order that? What is say 2020 January? No. It'll print them out like how you buy a calendar. So if I just go Google Calendar, okay? And it looks like this. Do you see? But instead of them putting together like this, it's going to be printed out like line by line. So February will be under January, not beside January. Take the day of the weekend, the year. Do you also have to take the day of the weekend? I'm not understanding the English here. Can you rephrase that?
Weekend is basically Saturday and Sunday. The times when you don't go to school.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what Darren's asking here. Would that mean that you have to align the weekdays? Yeah, you do have to align them. Yes. The align part is easy. Let me give you guys a hint. The thought process of making this will be okay. The thought process will be like this. First, you'll try to figure out how to get the day of the first day. How to get the day of January 1st of any given year. This is what is tricky. You have to figure out what is the day of the January 1st of this given year, okay? Get the day. This is the tricky part. Yeah, they have to be in a grid, like a pattern. Yeah. For each month. But the only difference from what I'm asking for and this Google Calendar is it doesn't go like all the months, they do not go parallel, they only go vertical. So each month looks like this. All right, every single month looked the same. It looked like this. They line up like August here, right? Then your September will be below August. Then October will be below September. And then November, then December. All right?
Okay.
Let me go. Okay, we're gonna take a 4 minutes break and be back at 20. And I'll try to show you guys my calendar, how it looks like, right? Does that mean you have to maybe along? Are we allowed to use online resources? Yeah. No, copy. No. Copy and paste is actually allowed in coding. We learn from the online resources. People publish their work. People put them on the discuss forums, so the followers they can see it. Yeah. So you're allowed to use the resources from online, but do not copy 100% of their code and make sure that you understand what you are copying, because there is a good chance I'm going to ask you to explain why you write what you write, and it'll be awkward if you cannot explain that. Okay? It's fine to copy, but understand before you actually copy them.
Okay.
And okay, actually, let's forget about the break. I'm just gonna go through how the mind process, then I'll try to rush upstairs, get my computer, try to show you guys. How to get a date? Okay, after you get a date, you have to figure out how do you format, how to format. Let me give you a hint. Use for loops, okay? So you loop by what? You loop by what? You loop by the number of weeks. Let me recall how I did it. Order by number of weeks. Yeah. Then you print each day, right? In the week. Increment by 1 for date. Start a new month when reach last. So this means you clear the increment to 1. This is basically how you. And remember, when you start new month, print the month, then all the things, all the toppings on top. Make sure to print them out. And remember, February is. You know why February is special?
29 days.
Yeah. It can either be 28 or 29.
Okay.
Okay. I'll try to be back 22. So give me 2 minutes. What do you mean leap? Okay, I'm back. What do you mean leap year?
A
What
leap
is?
year basically
Oh, that is
that was the 1 extra day.
for February.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You, for me, I did that, but you don't have to. So for you guys, just consider the year only starts. Okay, let me change. Okay, so starting. So this beginning year will be 1900. But your extra bonus will be for any year uh, any AC years. All right.
Okay.
So this your bonus will be if you can generate the
I still don't-
calendar for any years after century.
I'm still not sure if I could even write a calendar.
It's fine.
Because I already have a project for video editing class. And also piano.
You're taking many stuff, big man, big busy man. Okay, let me see how fast I can upload this. Where did I put this one? Oh, okay. I thought I deleted it.
Wait, is it already time? Or-
No.
Okay.
All right. Wait, why can I not? Why am I lagging? What? Why is it so laggy? Okay. Mm, wait, what? Which one was the... All right, this shall be my... What the... Calm down here. Yes, there we go. Okay, this is what I'm hoping that your calendar will look like.
Okay.
So for comparison, we're gonna find calendar 2020. Let's see what's the actual calendar. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
January starts Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Let's do a quick comparison. January starts Wednesday, right? And all the way to the end, December 31st ends Thursday. December 31st ends Thursday. So that means this calendar is correct. That's what I care about the most. It has to be correct. Other than that, I hope that it looks neat, so it's visually appealing. So like this. And again, I saw many questions about the format. I hope it's going to be year, then month, Then you have your Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It doesn't matter if you start the week with Monday or you start the week with Sunday, either way. But it has to be consistent. Then everything else carries on like a regular calendar. And your days has to be corresponded with your dates.
Oh wait, how long is this thing gonna be?
Well, you have 1 week to do it.
I mean, like, how long will the calendar be? Is it like you said it was up to the 1900s? So
Yeah. I'm
100
pretty
years.
sure the leap year already started in 1900s. The leap year was
Just an extra day.
special year. Okay. The leap year started on 1752. Okay? So it's fine. You're perfectly fine. 1900s already started the leap year.
Okay.
And if you want to do a bonus, write this into a file, which I didn't even do for this one. I'll try to rewrite this code in Python. It's currently in Java. I'll try to rewrite that in Python. You can see it's not even that long. It's only 130 lines. This is in Java with many spaces. In Python, it'll be much shorter, probably 100 lines.
Okay.
And hopefully you guys can finish. And once you're done, just send me an email with your code and I'll try to run it and see how it goes.
Okay.
Feel free to send me any emails about the questions you have. And that's it for today's class.
Okay.
I'm going a bit over time, 35 now. Have a good evening, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye,
Okay.
thank you.
Is this project
Thank you.
mandatory?
Yeah, what?
Is it mandatory?
Well, I do hope you guys finish it.
I'm not sure if I can.
Just give it a try, and we'll see how far you get.
Okay. I'm still working on the other stuff though.
Yeah. Understand?
Okay, bye.
Bye. Oh, okay. Here's a couple questions I didn't get a chance to answer. Can we import Python with date time? Yeah, no. You can use some resources online, but don't use this built-in library to get the date. Or that is probably going to be, well, actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll let you use it to get the day of January 1st. You can use this library, date time, to find what day in the week is January 1st, but that's it. You cannot use it to generate the entire calendar. No, that's not the point of this project. For the AC bonus, how that worked before the concept of weekdays was a thing. Oh, no, okay. Is he still here? No. Okay, I'll just post this. Hopefully he hears it. For the AC bonus, weekdays will be the same. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That'll be the same. It's just that you don't have leap years, right? Link of the presentation? Sure. Right, that's the link to the presentation. All right, no problem. Okay. So bye everybody. See you in 7 days.
All right. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.